unfairly. It may be from family, it may be from the work, it may be from whatever. Every last one of us at one time or another has been treated unfairly. Am I right? So we know how it is to be treated unfairly. So again, we will understand the importance of justice and explore God's commandments. So again, if we know how it is, that means we should also treat people with justice, or treat people what? Fairly. Right? Appreciate, watch this, appreciate the blessing God promises as a benefit of obedience. When you do God's will, when you listen to what God would have you to do, again, we all have benefited from that. Am I right? The blessings from God for our obedience. All you can say is, thank you, Jesus. You've been so good. And God says, you know something? You've been obedient, my servant. Continue on. As long as you are obedient, God will continue blessing you. But again, let us not forget, that does not mean that trials and tribulations will not come your way. And see, again, that's something that we really have to instill in the newcomer. See, because the newcomer to Christ may think everything's going to be perfect from this point on. And really, that's when it hits the fan, because Satan's going to come at you. All right, last but not least, pray for wisdom to know what is right. Pray for wisdom to know what is right, and perseverance to carry it through. When you know that you know that you know what you say, what you do is right, keep on doing it. In spite of you being in the minority. When you know something is right, you keep on fighting for that right, especially if it's of God. Does that make sense? I mean, we may be in the minority when that happens, but you know something, God will bless you, believe me. All right, with that being said, okay, yes, Sister Sheila. Oh, no, you had your hand. Oh, you want to read in focus, okay. Is that what it is? Okay, you know she loves reading her in focus. All right, in focus on page 144.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Brandon Johnson stood under the canopy of the Jefferson Monument in Washington, D.C., with his son Trevor and the rest of the Trevor's high school history class. He had taken the day off work so that he could chaperone his son's field trip to the National Mall and nearby monuments. Brandon knew his son would have a question about the nation's heritage and his own. The tour guide pointed out famous words inscribed around the top of the rotunda. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Trevor loudly remarked, and that's why Jefferson recognized Sally Hemings' equal status with himself, right?
All right, let's stop right there. See, that's sarcasm. Mm-hmm. All right, you know, I just want you to understand, he's being sarcastic. Mm-hmm. Right? Okay, come on, Sister Sheila.
And allowed her the full freedom of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Again, sarcasm. See, because these are all things that did not happen. Mm-hmm. He could sleep with her, but she could not have no equal rights. All right, come on.
Trevor's teacher gave him a look to check his attitude. As the group continued on their way, passing the Japanese cherry trees to the FDR Memorial, Brandon put his arm around his son. I'm glad you brought up Hemings, son. What do you think that means for us today, that a man like Jefferson kept one of the slaves as his mistress? That the people who think they're the best and most enlightened people are still full of it? Trevor replied.
Trevor is no joke, is he? Come on.
You just can't trust anything, he said, full of teenage
cynicism.
I got it. I'm tongue-tied right now. Nothing, not anything, huh? Brandon asked. Not anything we humans make, you mean? Trevor, that's why I'm so glad to be a Christian. America is nice enough. Sure is nicer. Now, wait a minute. America is nice enough. Sure is nicer. Now then, when my pops had to fight tooth and nail just to vote, but it still ain't the way it ought to be. That's why I'm glad I follow God's law. It's always been and will always be perfect and just, and so is the God who administers it.
Okay, thank you right there. Again, it's one thing to bring out and point out the wrongs. It's another thing to be such as he was a little cocky and arrogant about it. Sometimes there's a time and a place for everything, right? And I'm not saying, he was right, but sometimes sometimes you just got to chill and bite your tongue. Right? Anyone disagree? Okay. Yes. And that's true too. Yes. And that's true too. Right? Yeah, exactly. So everything is right. Yes, there are things that need to be said. But then again, there's a time and place. Sister Jessie? And yes. So all that comes into play, right? All that comes into play. All right. Let us flip over. Okay, I need someone to read from the Words You Should Know and Teacher Preparation, Unifying Principle. Can I get a reader on page 143?
Words you should know. Peace offering. A voluntary sacrifice of worship that represents thankfulness to God.
Okay, so when we have a peace offering here, that's not your tithes. That's just thank you, Jesus, for all that you're doing. Here's a little extra. All right, come on.
Take heed to be quiet.
And we've all heard that term before, right? Take heed. Take heed. Listen. Sometimes you have to be quiet and listen. Take heed. Listen to what I'm about to say. All right, continue on.
Teacher preparation. Unifying principles, the protection of justice. People often struggle to do what they know is right. How can people find the strength and motivation to do what is right? Deuteronomy 10 teaches that obedience to God's law is for our own well-being.
And again, we have to keep that in mind. Deuteronomy 10 teaches that obedience to God's law is for our own well-being. And to be honest with you, a lot of the laws out that we follow each and every day is for our own good. We may not like, that's the white man's law. Some laws are, okay, you're on the boulevard. No, you should not be traveling 100 miles an hour. That's why you have so many accidents on that boulevard. Am I right? I think what is it, like maybe 50 miles an hour, but you got people going 80. Every time I turn the news on, it seems like somebody was killed up on the boulevard. Not following the law. I don't like the boulevard either, right? All right, so again, let's flip over to page 147. If I can get a reader for the people, places, and times on page 147. Burnt offering, the people, places, and times.
People, places, and times. Burnt offering. A sacrifice that was burned entirely to God was called a burnt offering. One might sacrifice a bull, goat, lamb, or dove, but it had to be a male animal without defect.
Okay, we're familiar with this, right? Mm-hmm. So again, if you're not, you just start there with the burnt offering. Mm-hmm. For one thing, it had to be a male animal without defect.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because, why do you want to give something to God that's imperfect?
Right. Yes.
We're supposed to give God our what?
Best
of everything.
Yes.
He gave up. There you go. Exactly. All right, continue on.
As you entered the tabernacle, you had to lay your hand on the animal's head and dedicate it as a burnt offering. The Israelites were to perform these offerings with certain purification rituals, and the priests were to administer them daily, weekly, monthly, and during festivals. This was the most common form of sacrifice and was meant to show one's complete devotion to God.
Okay, again, this was to show one's complete devotion to God. All right, peace offering. Continue on, peace offering.
Peace offering. A peace offering proceeded much like a burnt offering.
All right, so what's that saying is a peace offering proceeded. That means, pro means what? Came before or after?
Before.
After. Pre is
sorry,
before,
after.
pro is after, okay?
That's right, after. Oh.
Continue on, Sister Jess.
But the animal could be male or female, and instead of the entire animal being burned up on the altar, only the animal's entrails were burned. Sacrificing the animal's liver and kidneys to God was indeed a sacrifice at the time, as those organs are dense with fats and nutrients. At the time, liver, and often the kidneys too, were used regularly in divination, as they had sacred significance in Egypt and Babylon.
Okay, now you see that was in Egypt and Babylon.
Yes.
All right, come on.
Israelites set themselves apart by simply disposing of these organs. The meat of the animal would then be distributed to the priests and those bringing the offering.
All right, thank you. See, that's why we have today, there are certain meats, well, really, that the Muslims and the Jews do not eat. Now, I know they definitely stay away from pork, right? And it may be certain body parts or animal parts that they don't eat, right? Just like us, see, you may not have liked it, but I remember as a kid, and when I found out what it was, I was like, ooh, y'all remember that liver and onions and gravy? And when somebody said, I heard somebody say, I still eat it. You can have it. Liver, onions, and gravy. Sister Carol, you eat that? He said, no. Yes. A lot of us, a lot of people do. Liver has it has a unique taste to it. Even when you put that gravy and that onions on it, still has a unique taste. Yes, Sister Jess? And that's true. But let's be for real. Liver does have a unique taste. But it's good. All right. All right. Gloria, you said you love it, huh? As a matter of fact, somebody might go home and say, I think I might cook some liver today. All right, let's go here to the background. If I can get a reader for the background.
The background. The people of Israel, who had been eyewitnesses to the 10 plagues that visit their oppressors, seeing God part, they could escape